right click to select a square, and then you can drag an arrow
Okay, yeah.
like that, and then left clicking just nullifies everything. So this was the game where you played. This is, I think, your most recent YouTube video, and you were like, "I'm going to play the English." You played C4.
Yes.
I was watching these. They started all popping up on my feed. So, um, okay, let's.
So I'm going to tell you about C4.
Mhm.
I have no desire necessarily to be the best chess player, but I want to
Mhm.
keep my audience entertained, and I'm like overly paranoid that if I do the same thing 2 times in a row, they're gonna stop watching. So I used to play E4 exclusively, and I would play like these really boring, like I don't know, I think it's called like the Scotch game or something like that, where it's just like
Sure.
everybody's doing exactly the same thing, and let's get that nonsense out of there. But I was like, you know what? Let's do some weird stuff. Like C4 is well respected, but I have
Yep.
no idea how it goes from here. So I've been like playing this and then improvising. So this should be very helpful.
No, that's fair. Actually, if you can, if you can play a game of chess at the 1500 level without knowing any openings, that's huge. That just means that you basically. I'm sorry to my chat if they've heard me say this a million times, but the way this basically works is chess skill is defined as I sit you down and well, at least to me, I give you a position. I give you like 10 minutes. You have to tell me the evaluation and the best plans for both sides.
Okay.
Because then you don't know what the opening is. You know nothing. You just see the pawn structure. You see um, the balance of the pieces, whatever, and then etc. So, you've made it quite far, and your theoretical knowledge isn't. I mean, it's not like I know people who at 1500 are only try-harding openings. They just
Yeah.
learn everything. So, I guess first things first. Do you have a play style? Do you prefer a game that's you know? Do you want to memorize an opening and then just crush everybody, or do you prefer to kind of get into a middle game that you can like think and create plans and strategize and?
Yeah. I mean, I think, and there's a couple of things. It's weird for me. I'm like rediscovering that I've changed as a person since I was 12. Like
Mm-hmm.
when I was a kid, I only wanted to play like open games that were more, I suppose, tactical than strategic.
Mm-hmm.
And like part of that came from the fact that I played in a local chess club that had like you'd play 120-minute per side games, and they would always be these closed slogs where you'd play like one game every night and that's it.
Yep.
So I liked that like open style, but honestly I find like it's now in the 5 minute or 10 minute aside, I actually like a closed game where I feel like I'm analytically a little bit stronger than the average player that's at like 1400 or 1500 elo. So I think I actually like a more complicated mid game. I like to get into a more complicated mid game right now.
Okay. Okay. Um, I mean, I have a few ideas like over time, like I people who I've taught who are like 14, 1500 openings that are a lot easier to learn and then ultimately put into practice. Because the way you have to learn an opening is you learn the moves and you learn the traps, like what you have to avoid,
Hmm.
and then you just play. You just kind of get playing. So we can start with a game. That's what
Sure.
we can do. We can start with analyzing a couple of the games because I want to talk more generally, like conceptually. And then after that, we can do openings.
Yeah. Let's do
So,
that then.
okay, perfect. So, this game in particular, the way I want you to think about this is if you're like 14, 1500, that is like every game has a ton of value for analysis because you're playing, I hate to say this, but real chess, No
Oh,
one's
thank
hanging
you.
queens. It's like your mistakes in a game, in a 1500 game, strategic, bad trade, bad decision with the pawn structure. So, okay, you started with c4, and you can see the moves, right?
Yep. Yep.
Okay, c4. He goes here. Okay, in every opening, there's like a spot where you go, something's bad. They did something bad. This game, it's move one.
Yeah.
You can't play d5 against c4. It's already much worse for black.
That's what I felt like in the moment. I felt like immediately they were on the back foot.
Yes, I'll tell you why. Have you ever heard of the Scandinavian defense?
I've seen it pop up as I've been playing, but nothing more than that.
It's the same kind of thing, but
Okay.
notice it's against the king's pawn.
Mm-hmm.
The difference is there's a whole central pawn missing. So that's why doing this against the way you see, like the swap of the pawn.
Yeah, yeah.
As little as it is, this is already almost like winning for white, like borderline already winning. 100% of computers would win this with white from here. So normally what you do in a situation like this is you take the center. You just take the center immediately, which is what you did. But then he stops you from going here.
Right.
Sorry.
Yeah, to e4.
Because obviously this. So bishop d2 is fine. I would probably like knights before bishops generally.
Okay.
Just because you know your knight's going to go here, and you don't necessarily know if your bishop will go here. But obviously it's not, you know, nothing bad. E4, fantastic. Bishop g4. I think nothing is wrong. Nothing is wrong. Okay, I love what you did here. This is a really instructive moment. So you played e5.
Mm-hmm.
Because you know now that the opening phase is over, you need to kind of like do something, right? You gotta,
yeah, I have like initiative right now. I can kind of control what's happening.
Yes, and e5 is the best move. In fact, you know the crazy thing about this position? It's completely equal material, but Engine is saying it's +4 for white.
Oh, so it's like a piece up, basically.
Piece and even a pawn, yeah. And notice e5 is the only move. So this is very important, guys. Like, guy doesn't have central control. E5, best move. Knight d5. So then take, and then you immediately use the open c file. So this is great. So far, everything is fantastic.
Oh, thank you. That'll change pretty soon, I think.
Well, but that's why a game like this is so good. So you played Queen c2, and you might not remember exactly. Obviously, you recorded the game, but
I can actually tell you like what my methodology was in the moment.
Okay.
So first I'm on a little bit of time crunch, yeah, in the game to some extent. But yeah, I thought c8, like it's not necessarily good, but I guess it's kind of clever. If he doesn't do anything to respond to it, you put him in check, he takes your queen, you take his rook, and then the only way out of mate is, to do that. And materially it's the same, but it felt kind of clever.
No, so there's absolutely nothing wrong with the move Queen c2. It's just that it's like flashy, but at best, what's going to happen is you'll trade a lot of pieces.
Mm-hmm.
Queen c7 is better than Queen c8 because at least you get the rook in, and then you can like take this and you can put some pressure on this. So this is a bit more of a tactical pattern, which is very important to keep in mind. It's the open diagonal to the king on the queen side.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
This will happen, and the best move is Queen a4. Which the computer does agree with, because this is just like almost impossible to defend. And there's something even more brutal here. Let's say black plays rook d8, defending the knight. Bishop a5.
Right, yeah.
So you just basically, you play where you're stronger. And since you can move two guys over here and just destroy, and you have the rook, Queen a4, and like this knight is loose because the bishop is disconnected. Queen a4, and then like, for example, bishop b5, and let's say, I'm just going to play a random move. You have something else. You have like e6, for example.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Clearing the square for your knight, right? So something like this, and even like knight e5 in the future. Just going for like the kill, total kill. Like, don't even give him a chance. So then here, when the king moves over, I like Queen f5. The computer isn't thrilled because of this move, but you see how you're spending like a lot of time with the queen.
Yeah, moving the same piece too much.
Yeah, and he goes like e6, he gets a little time. When I was looking at the game, this move I audibly gasped at. You played b3.
Okay.
It's not a blunder, but at this level, one move can change the game. So this move is just something called, it's just too slow.
Yeah.
It's too slow. Like you don't need that pawn. So what you do need is you need to create threats because you have the initiative. You like you said, you have a lead in development. Why are you +3 in this position? Like, why would you describe, why are you +3?
Okay, let me think about it for a second. There's a couple things I like. Like, I have control over the C file already. Their king, it cannot castle, which is kind of like a very quick way for them to get a little bit more defensible there. And just not being able to castle and having their king open kind of means that the opponent has to deal with threats more readily, I suppose. Like, they actually have to use some of their pieces to reinforce it instead of just like sequestering it, if they castle kingside on G8. The fact that the king is moved over to D makes this pawn pretty vulnerable, especially if I can get my knight here, for example, and then, in some way we can put some pressure on the bishop maybe, and obviously it threatens the fork, but they probably wouldn't let it happen, but in stopping it, they would give up some kind of advantage. It can't be realized right away, but the bishop does get to pin the queen against the king, and there's maybe ways that we can manifest that. And, like, moreover, like, this knight sucks for them. Like, there's no way that they can get it out. This bishop's, like, it doesn't seem great for them. This bishop maybe is a little bit more powerful, but still not developed at all. So I just feel like I've got a way more aggressive position where I kind of control what's happening.
So the key that you kind of brought up was like this, like this little area. If you can successfully just do something here on this side of the board. Remember earlier I said Queen A4.
Yeah.
Queen A4, like you were better on the queen side. Now you're better on the king side because your queen's here. And one move that that the machine was trying to get you to play was H4. Sometimes pushing a pawn in front of your king like this, it does have a very legitimate threat because it stops this from happening. And the problem is, like you said, black's just going to play this. And yes, that is absolutely true. So then you'll have to move your queen back. Doubling the rooks could be the best idea, because this move also wants this.
That's true. Yeah.
And if you double, it's a really big problem. For example, this just loses because of this.
Right.
So black.
Yeah.
I mean, and then you also have this on top of that. And like, for example, if queen takes b2, this is not under attack. Because
of the knight. Yeah.
Yeah, because of the knight. So, okay, like you'll lose a pawn or two, which obviously, oops, sorry, definitely not there. Here, yeah, I mean, that's how you lose. So like doubling up the rooks, and it says +3. The problem with a game like this is that it's really hard to see exactly why, but you described it quite well. It's because their king sucks. You have a lot more activity. King safety material are the top two. And then after that, it's piece activity and space and pawn structure. So you're winning on every single one except material. Material's equal in the position. You have a much safer king. Their king is bad. You have much more active pieces. Do you know how to count space?
I don't. I did when I was 12, but I don't anymore.
It's just a fancy way of like, how many squares do you control or have vision on in their position? So 1, 2, because the pawns, 3, 4, etc. You can kind of count like that. But this rook is like, the C file is everything. But you're always threatening to get on both sides. But there's one move. Your opponent starts like trying to wiggle out, and then you play knight g5. And what you let him do here a little bit, even though computer hated this, is you start letting him simplify. And he's a little happier simplifying, because that means less things to worry about. Less kind of pieces threatening to take. So you play rook c3, queen takes d4. And here you played the second move, which made me hurt a little physically. Why did you trade queens?
Yeah, I mean, I have less of a recollection of, but I think it was the idea that, and I'm trying to remember where it goes. I think I remember where it goes from here, but I think part of it was the idea that, like, so if he takes, it does like royally. Well, you know what? Now I don't even remember, because I was like, maybe I was thinking I could get control of like the F file via like capturing that way, but like obviously doubling up the pawn structure there is trash. Generally speaking, I would say I have a bias towards trading, especially in a faster game, like in a game where I don't have that much time on the clock. The idea that like the simplification would benefit me as well, but I do probably overtrade. I think that's something my audience would say as well.
Yes, Yes. Someone in chat already said he loves to trade queens. Um, they're also begging me to ask you different questions on subjects, but I've learned.
Don't
to
worry
not
about
do-
that. Yeah.
Yeah, the chat. You calm down. So here's the thing about this position. It's a good way of kind of thinking about it. In any position, if a pair of pieces for you and your opponent disappear, like which pair do you want to disappear?
Right.
The truth is, at this point, like your piece superiority is, if you look at like any computer analysis here, it's going to tell you it's just the C file. That's the only reason you have an advantage, is if you go in like this. Otherwise, like these pieces are not great, but
Yeah.
you don't want a queen trade because you're the attacking side. So you only want to trade queens if you're up a lot of material or if you're under attack. And in this case, you're definitely not under attack. So it would have been better to just go here. And actually, you're threatening checkmate.
Yeah, that's true.
In fact, how does black stop this? I'm not sure it's possible. Like knight takes, check, here, 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 here. And there's no back rank mate.
Yeah. You bishop back to F1.
Yeah, both bishops, actually.
Oh, that's
Bishop
right.
F1.
Yeah. It was reinforced by the queen.
Is this scary?
Not really. I mean, you can get out easily with that, but you could also take the advantage back yourself super easily with either this or that, and then you probably mate them, I think, before they even get a chance.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. That's the main thing I wanted to bring up here. I mean, h3 is a last resort. Actually, probably bishop c1 even, because you have the queen protecting.
Right. Yeah.
The disconnect. But I did want you to, not freak out. People freak out. They see bishop d3. They're like, oh, I messed it up. Oh my God. No, just go hunt their king down. You're fine. Actually, you have something very cool. You don't even have to give a mate. You can check, and like bring the rook back to be like ultra fancy.
No, that's nice.
But yes, you can also just hunt them down and checkmate them. After this, the game is now like totally different because you're not attacking. You're, I guess, slightly worse. Why? Down one pawn.
Yes.
Just down one pawn, right? So I think... But your opponent in this position could have played a very good move, which he didn't play. He played king e7, which is garbage.
Yeah, it was very trash.
Yeah, very, very bad move.
I remember that one. Why is it bad?
No. You punished it, but
Yeah.
I'm saying, why is king e7 bad? What's the best move here for black?
Let me think about that. Again, it's nice to have some more free time because I'm pretty sure I had like 90 seconds left on the clock at this point.
That won't be easy, no.
Trying to think of what would be the best move. Well, obviously, like they want to get their rook developed, which is why they moved king to e7 in the first place, so that they could have access to the back rank. But I feel like the way that they gain an advantage here, like if I look at it from the perspective of the black pieces, their knight, now that d4 doesn't exist, actually has a lot more flexibility. So I feel like developing that could be sensible, but I also wonder if it isn't something a little bit cheekier, like due to the fact that they have like a more contiguous pawn structure, if they can't just push these like with maybe something like f6 and start to dismantle me that way. But I don't know how to move backwards, by the way.
Oh no, you just left click if you want to get rid of anything.
Oh, okay, yeah. So that's my hunch, but I'd love to know the reality.
Just got hit with the word contiguous. I'm still recovering.
It's kind of it's unbroken, and then it stretches like from D to H, whereas I only have like H to E. So they can trade pawns in such a way that they can get some freedom to get them to the back rank.
So, little checklist to always, like I said, this concept of like instinct and coming up with a move, like just instantly that you will see it will come to your mind very, very quickly. For the concept of forcing moves. So attacks on the king, checks. That's just number one for yourself and for them. Just scan it if that exists. The second one is a capture. So in this position, the only capture they have is this, which is not good.
Right.
But the third one is like the concept of attacks. So attacking something in your position, which is worth.
Ah, wait, you hit me with a light bulb there. Can't they just go like bishop to b1?
Well, that actually yes, but who's worth even more than a pawn in your position, which they can attack right now. But yes, bishop b1 is a yes.
All right. Oh yeah, like pawn to d4.
Yeah, and notice what's happening when they play pawn to d4.
What's happening when they move pawn to d4? Oh, they're forcing me off of the protection of the e pawn.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I mean, if you lose that pawn, it's going to be very bad because it's like an avalanche.
Yeah.
The 5-on-3. So d4 will come to mind a lot faster, and this bishop is just a beast. I mean, it's surviving the whole game. So king e7, yes, but that's what you have to think about too. D4, forcing move. So d4, knight e5, and then by the way, you obviously find.
I felt great about that move.
Yeah, it's a nice move. It's aesthetic. It makes them just go back, and then bishop d3. You gave away this. You need to follow the path of the aesthetic move. Where should the bishop live forever?
Probably d6 at that point.
Yeah,
It controls way too much space to
yes.
give up.
Don't even think about just bishop d6. I mean, rook, bishop, boom, everybody. And then you can glue the center shut with f4 in the future so that they can never get rid of this.
Yeah.
And yeah, bishop d6. Anytime you have this in bishop d6, like it just end the whole game. It's done. But of course you want to trade the bishops. Now, he blunders immediately. This is a fantastic move. When you're down 2 pawns, you need to attack things that are weak.
Yeah.
When you're up 2 pawns, you need to not create weaknesses. This creates a weakness of what?
The pin on the bishop to b2.
Yes, the pin, and the real like instructive thing is every pawn he has is on a light square.
Yeah.
Everything of value is on a dark square, and you have a dark squared bishop. So that's why you can go here, and it looks like he's holding everything together, but you go chop, 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 and all of a sudden it's not so simple. And I mean, f4, by the way, doesn't work, but it's very close. Because you see, you want to take this pawn.
Yeah.
So this is bad because you can play what?
Well, I guess like h3.
Yeah, and what about more violent?
More violent than h3.
There's a more forcing move than attacking the knight.
Oh, I guess you would just take the knight with your rook instead.
Yes.
And then you get the pawn and then also the rook out of
exactly.
it after.
Yeah. But bishop e5, rook g6, I think is also very good. One instructive moment here I just wanted to show. f4 looks like it wins, but it has a drawback. So I always say this is like the danger level concept. So the knight is hanging.
Mm-hmm.
But let's say black won't move it. What is black's most forcing move in this position? Using that hierarchy. There's one check, but it loses the knight. So
pawn to h4.
Yeah, and now you have to move the rook away, like somewhere. So if something like h4, the best move for you is now probably to go here. So that if take, you have this still. And then it's kind of the same thing, but I'm just kind of this is how you think about this. You want to play f4, but then there's h4. So the way it's happened in the game is he made a very 1500 level mistake. He lost his mind. He lost the g6 pawn, and then in the next few moves, he literally lost every goddamn
Yeah, he just
pawn
went. He went mega tilt at this point. I was like, it's just a joke at this point.
Yeah, he malfunctioned a little bit. And this is instructive. We can learn from our opponents. Of course, the best move here is you have to bring the king.
Yeah. And
then you oftentimes can even chuck this other pawn. Like, just chuck this and just go with these guys.
Yeah.
And also rook c8.
Yeah.
Why rook c8? Because open file and then active rook in the endgame. So this game had like a few things. It had the opening, but then he survived it, even though he played. It's like weird because a game like that, if you run it through the analysis, will be like, you're terrible, you're the worst person ever. He gave you 30 missed wins.
Yeah.
Have you ever analyzed and then you don't even know why it's a missed win?
There's sometimes I'm like, oh, obviously this would have been better when I look at it for more than 10 seconds. And then sometimes it's like, this move puts you 1.5 points up from your previous position. And then I follow the line down and I'm like, only a computer could find that in 10 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. I was watching Bodhi, who started as a total beginner, and I was watching his stream, and the engine wanted him to defend the pawn. And defending the pawn was -6. What he played was like -4. It was like, you have to defend the pawn. He was like, what the... I don't know. So that also happens. But the rest of this game was beautiful. So he traded rooks in a losing pawn endgame.
Yeah, terrible move.
Don't do that. And then you just went full Magnus here. King, G pawn. Look at this. Look at this beautiful conversion. King D4, and just beautiful, excellent execution. G pawn as a decoy, and like everything about that game was good, with the exception of two moves. A little bit slow on the B3, but most importantly was the queen trade.
Yeah.
Definitely. I always say this, it's like you have to stay away from creating your own meta. Like, I like to trade pieces. It makes the position easier. No. It's like the best move is going to be the best move. If it's the best move to trade in the position, you trade. And if not, then you don't trade.
Yeah, I've never actually thought about it that way. Like, even when I came into this conversation, I was like, I like open games. I prefer to play like this, but that's a better way to think about it, I think, is kind of like meta agnostic.
So I have actually, the rest of the games you're playing black.
Yeah, I played black like 5 times in a row yesterday or something, so.
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah, I did see this. Okay, let's take a look at... Okay, you won this game. Man, okay, we're going to just feed your ego today.
Hey. Well, most of the games that I lose, honestly, are just like a hung piece. So I think that...
Okay.
I can lose on different terms, but a lot of them are just like, oh yeah, I didn't see that, and then a bishop gets captured.
So this game you have black. Okay, and you say against this, you go d5. I'm conflicted, because on the one hand, you're playing completely like good chess without being bogged down by theory.
I know the principle. You want to try to control the space in the center as much as possible, and develop your pieces. Try to develop your pieces faster than your opponent.
Yeah, like, you just that's like what you did. You played bishop g4. I mean e6. We can throw in a little like lesson if you want to mess around with a few openings.
Yeah, some tech.
So against d4, c4, and knight f3, basically any opening that doesn't attack the e4 square.
Mm-hmm.
You can play the Dutch defense. Have you ever heard of that?
I have not heard of the Dutch defense.
Beautiful. So it's f5 on the first move.
Okay, so it's like a reverse Sicilian.
Yes, exactly. And what you do in a perfect world is you play. There's a few different Dutches you can play, so I can even give you that, because I feel like you're capable of making your own decisions, whichever way you want to play it. I'm going to develop like a normal person. So your next move is knight f6, like no matter what.
Okay.
And you can go ahead and I think you can play them. Okay.
Okay.
Nice. No, because there's this weird glitch. If I draw an arrow and you play the move, it like doesn't register.
Oh.
So
I think I have like PTSD about f5, just because when you're like 7 years old, they're like, never do that because you're just gonna get scholars made or fools mated.
Yeah, we can. Well, definitely not.
That's
F4,
a pretty bad move.
F4 is bold. So there's two Dutches that I would recommend. So number one is a bit more aggressive. It's called the Stonewall Dutch. So what you do in the Stonewall is you set up f5, e6, d5, and c6. This is Stonewall Dutch. So something like e6. Go ahead and play d5. I'll play like g3. C6, okay. Bishop g2.
I guess you would
Yeah, where do you think you're going to put this bishop?
probably b4.
So you want to keep the bishop kind of camped.
Oh, okay. So you would like to keep it at d6 then.
Yeah, exactly. So you can go bishop d6, like I can castle, you can castle, and you're always going to take here with the e-pawn.
Mm-hmm.
The bishop will always camp here. That's actually why you have the pawn on c6.
Okay.
Because you always want the bishop to be dropping back here. And in this particular setup, I played like my bishop to g2, but you will get games where most people will play something like this. Also very common, instead of g3 and bishop g2. And your game plan is these two squares.
Okay.
So that square, you want the knight.
Yeah, you want to plant that there.
Yes, and you kind of want them to not do the same thing. So how can you control the e5 square with another piece?
Knight to d7.
Yes. So you can probably already tell you're going to have a problem piece.
Yeah, the white bishop is useless.
Yes, the light square bishop chills. he chills for now. There are some maneuvers where you play like bishop d7, bishop e8, and even trade him off.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Which works because you've played the f-pawn. And the real game plan here is a kingside attack. Like, you put it all together by going here, and then up and over, and kind of in a perfect world, you can like detonate like a really nasty tactic. For example, bishop takes h2, knight takes, and then queen h4. So that bishop sacrifice deflected the knight from protecting the h4 square, and it's over. They can't stop mate.
Yeah, and then no one at 1500, no one's gonna stop that. I'll tell you that right now.
No. Like first of all, that attack, even if it doesn't work, like with the first iteration, that there's layers to it. So, if they play h3, you can play g5.
Yeah. Okay.
G5, G4. It's like another way to like keep chomping away. As long as you control the center, that's kind of the golden rule. Is like a closed center benefits the attacking side.
Yeah, because obviously you're like blowing up your king side, but it doesn't matter because they have no leverage to get anything through here, really, because of how blocked up it is right here.
Yes, exactly. Like if the center is more open, this is very bad. That's also one of the reasons we take with the e-pawn, because if we take with c-pawn, now we're getting it. We're getting kind of attacked, and so this is one. That's one version. And the reason I like the Dutch defense is you can play it against everything that's not e4.
Yeah, that's versatile. Yeah.
But the other one, have you heard of the King's Indian defense?
I have. Again, it's the same. Like I have name recognition, but no knowledge of how it develops at all.
So forget everything you just learned about the Stonewall. Chad already did. I see some people saying play that again. Chad, you guys got VODs and YouTube. You'll figure it out, or just YouTube it. Literally, there's videos. So the other way is g6.
Okay.
And you're gonna go here. And then you're going to castle. And then you are going to play the move d6. Because you're trying to play which pawn move in the future? You're building for a certain pawn move with the move d6.
Well, I mean, it's either c5 or e5.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like e5 is great. It feels wrong at first just because, your king has this huge pocket of space, between like f8 and f6 and d8 and d6. But again, if it closes up, it's okay. But I guess I'm speaking out loud here. I'm like, okay, if I was to move to e5, they have an advantage in terms of the take right now. So it must be c5.
It's e5.
All right, one of them had to be right.
Yes. I mean, the thing is, c5 actually has some merit too. Just it's more often than not going to be e5.
Okay.
But these are the two breaks in these positions, and you prepare e5 with moves like queen e8, which is obviously very non-standard, which is something it's just rare. I mean, like when do you play like this? And knight d7 or knight c6. You might prefer knight d7 because knight c6, you can get hit with this move.
Yeah.
And it takes a little bit of getting used to. d5 is actually not so scary, but queen e8, knight d7, and then e5. And another very common move in the Dutch is this: to stop this knight.
Yeah, because you can put the check on with the queen to a5, or no, just to control the space with your pawn. Okay.
Yes, exactly. That's what you do. And then once you do this, you try to push for e5. So why this is good, why this is like a kind of a better version sometimes than a King's Indian, is because in a King's Indian defense, you start with this here.
Mm-hmm.
It's the whole same setup, but the pawn is on f7, so you have to move the knight to play f5 and e5. The Dutch has a benefit of the pawn is already there, so you can now play e5 and e4 and generally create some sort of attack on the king side. Like,
okay,
the mid-game plan might look something like, let's say queen e8, rook c1, knight d7. Like, I'm going to try not to blunder this. Because, there's a fork, too. At the end.
yeah.
So something like this. And then the way you would play this position is, well, machine wants knight h5, but I'm going to play more human stuff, like h6, g5, f4, for example.
Okay, so you're just, slowly threatening the king side further.
Yes, exactly. Sometimes you can play a move like e4. What that does is it attacks the knight and gives you the central square.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is very pretty. You have, like, this bishop just staring at nothing, and then you slowly build it up, and queen comes, and pawn, and so on. And this pawn, look how good this pawn is, because it really is just stopping everybody.
Sense.
So there's...
I'm realizing now, too, like, it's funny, just like the way you say it's instructive. I'm like, oh man, I remember what it was like to have an opening in mind that informed the way you play the mid game as well, instead of just surviving the opening and then looking at the situation and being like, here's what I can do now based on like the improvisational environment I see.
Like, someone asked me earlier if I have a book to get them from 1700 to 2100, and anytime that gets asked, I always say the Bible or, like some holy text, because the truth is, it's separate. Chess is in three like phases. You have your opening, middle game, and end game, and you just really need to dissect what you're good at. Like, people say I hate playing against the Sicilian. Okay, so learn it. Find something that. So the Dutch is good because it saves you study of three openings, and you can just play it all the time and learn. Like, did I handle the transition to the middle game correctly here? Blah blah blah. It'll come down to little things. Where was the dark squared bishop?
Mm-hmm.
Was it on f4, g3, or was it on b3, b2? Like, how did I play the position depending on how my opponent developed? So you could play the Dutch. Like, you have this system that I just showed you with g6, bishop g7, everything. That's called the Leningrad.
Mm-hmm.
The other one is called Stonewall. You can't combine them, as you can see, because they have very different pros and cons. So the drawback of the Dutch of playing a move like f5 so early is stuff like e4,
mm-hmm.
right? Because this looks very dangerous.
Yes.
So what would you respond to e4 with?
Knight to f6.
No, you got to take.
Yeah?
Yeah, you got to take it. You actually must take, because if you play this, remember, you'll get overrun in the center.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
So you got to take. No, that's a good thing I'm asking.
Yeah.
So I once told a very funny story of a kindergarten teacher teaching a student to play queen h5 check.
Right.
g6, bishop e2.
Okay, that's I guess that does lead to mate, so fair enough.
Yeah, the kid took it and got mated and cried.
It's actually, so this is incidental. With like the very first tournament I played in, I remember like it was a 10-round tournament. I was like maybe 11 years old. I was 9-0 going into the 10th round. Another kid was 9-0 going into the 10th round.
Wow, okay.
And then he was white, and he just tried to play Scholar's Mate immediately. And you just play like knight to f6 or something like that. And I just remember him thinking for like 6 minutes after the defense, and just I was like, I'm definitely gonna win this game.
That's hilarious.
But, yeah.
I have the last round of New Jersey State Scholastics. I was playing a kid. We had 4 out of 4 because we weren't as good as you. You had double that. You had 9 points. We had 4 out of 4, and this kid tried like some like really basic trap, and I stopped it, and I won, and he cried, and my dad got me the new chess software after I won the tournament. So.
I have a lot of seeing tears stories and almost being in tears myself, for sure. It's a unique environment.
Chess is intense, man. The good thing about this, once you take though, is like let's say knight c3. This is called Staunton Gambit.
Okay.
It's very good. So knight f6, and then something like bishop g5. Bishop g5. This is kind of like the main line. Now, I don't want you to freak out. So what's your first instinct telling you here?
My first instinct, I guess, is that I don't really like it. I suppose, like, I think you just kind of accept that if you, maybe you do d4 is one way to reinforce the e pawn if it's worth saving, and then like if he takes your bishop, you take from the e pawn, and at least you have kind of like an okay pawn structure. It's not amazing.
So in that position, use the forcing moves for your opponent. After bishop f6, so like you want to play d5, like we could draw the arrows. This. White has a knockout punch there, which is like the whole point of this gambit. And once you see it once, you'll never.
Okay. Just a second. My imagination has gotten worse since I've been out of the chess game a bit. So imagining this board position right now is it takes all of my available IQ. So I do this. You would take. I would take here. I don't know. I don't know that I see it. I mean, my hunch would be something like
So you see that one, but you have the queen check on the other side.
Yeah, like the queen to h5.
Yes.
But can't it just be defended against by pawn to g6 again?
But there's now two things hitting this.
Ah, okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
This is like the one thing that a Staunton Gambit player knows, and that's all they really have to know.
Because they're like, I already won at this point, if you're white.
The position here is very tough for black, because black has to lose one more pawn. Mm-hmm. And it's hard to guard this. For example, knight a6, bam.
Yeah, rather than respond to this, you would rather prevent it.
Yes. So this is all you have to avoid. There's a few ways. There's like the main line, but I really don't want to recommend it because it's knight c6, which is like terribly unnatural. Mm-hmm. So you can stick to g6 or e6. Actually, they're both okay.
Okay, e6 was the other one I had in mind.
Yeah, just like chill, just chill. Don't do anything crazy. Same thing with g6. Like if take. Okay, great, congrats. I'm just gonna get my king to safety.
Yeah.
Gambits, you do have to survive often. Like you just, if you don't know what you're doing, just survive.
Yeah.
And then you're fine.
Okay.
But that's like, that's kind of it. I mean, if you wanna experiment with like for example knight f3, okay, great, f5. Fantastic. F5, you can either go for Stonewall or Leningrad. Like try to play it like that. And that's, I mean, as far as d4 goes, it's good. I saw against e4 you play Caro-Kann, but I saw a different e4 game, which we can.
So it's the same reason that I started doing the English. Is I was like, I always respond like e4, e5, and it tends to, at least at this elo, lead to an open game that's kind of interesting. But playing the same opening over and over can be a little boring. So I thought, let's try doing like Caro-Kann, which usually leads to a more closed game that can have some interesting positions in the mid game. But again, like most of the time, once I get 2 moves in, the computer is like, that's your last book move.
Yes. That's very fair. Well, the Caro, you don't really need like a crazy amount of knowledge. You can kind of know what to do depending on how they play. Let's take a look at the game itself.
Okay.
So this game you won. Next game we got to look at you got to lose the next game.
I was gonna say is I'm now like, why do I need coaching? Like I've got a 100% win rate.
Exactly. Yeah, I have not pulled up a game yet, and then where you were on the losing side. But
it happens. It happens.
Your kid distracted you. It's never. It's never the full story. I love c5, by the way. I love that you play the c pawn instead of knight c6. I keep telling beginners to stop doing this crap. Like, oh
yeah, like I want my bishop to be useful at some point. So why don't we try to like something like this to maybe get it out there?
Yes, Thank you. Oh my gosh, chat. Wait, I mean, I feel like I have like 3 sons. The chat is 2 of them, and I'm telling the chat like, why can't you be like my oldest son? Like, everything he does is good. I guess learning chess when you're younger really does help, though.
It sticks, yeah. I'm surprised.
You want to know something funny?
Okay.
You're in a Caro-Kann now.
Oh, really? That is funny.
Yeah,
I guess
because you
yeah,
transposed.
I capture with the C pawn, I guess.
Yeah, and then it's like the exchange Caro-Kann. So that's called a transposition. So the only thing is these positions are very tricky to navigate because they're so solid.
That's why I want to trade. Let's open it up a bit after I closed it with my opening.
Oh, and that's why in this position you took the knight because he traded.
Yeah, it's a bias for sure.
Okay, you have something better. Knight takes e5 is your most forcing move, but it's not the best.
Okay.
So this is something called continuity. So a piece moves. I want you to think not just what is it attacking. So this is attacking this and maybe there. But it used to guard something.
Okay.
What did it used to guard?
It used to guard. Ah, very clever. It used to guard d4.
Yep.
Which is now open. Okay. And they can't capture with the pawn, obviously.
Yes. Oh, they can. You would,
well,
they
it's
your
not.
Knight in your
yeah. I guess it's close to equivalent, but.
Well, the problem is that after that, everything else falls apart. Your queen just takes everybody. Yeah, knight takes d4 is what? Oh my god. Computer is just the worst thing in the world. It's trying to tell me that after queen a4, there are still chances. Are you kidding me? Oh my god. Look at this. This attacks the knight.
Mm-hmm.
And when the knight moves back, the bishop attacks your queen, and the queen attacks your bishop with the knight. Yeah. Good. Of course.
Probably something I wouldn't have seen.
I didn't see it either, so you don't have to see it. 9 times out of 10, knight takes d4 will be the best move. And no one in a million years, if they see queen a4, bishop e3, you report them probably. That's like this, you play knight takes d4, and 9 times out of 10, the concept itself is good enough.
Mm-hmm.
But okay, we trade. We're attacking, not really attacking. I mean, it's defended. I like this. Just getting the. Now you see your bishop kind of has no
future,
no role. Yeah, it has like bishop f5. Ah.
So I thought the rook would have now maybe some access on the e file.
And the queen can't take because it's guarding this.
Ah, you know what? I hope I thought of that in the moment.
You did, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. I mean, to be honest, it's queen f5, queen b2 is very interesting because like there's this and there's this and there's this and there's a lot of stuff happening.
I definitely one of the things I remember is I was like, especially if I can get them to play f4 first, then this knight it becomes like you'll never get it out of there.
Yes, it's 100% right. Very happy you pointed that out. See, like. People, when they're first starting out, they're looking at stuff like this. They're looking at all the one move attacks, and the fact that you're thinking, if my opponent plays f4, I get an outpost from my knight. All right. So are you winning the next PogChamps? Like, what are we doing here?
I don't know if I've got the intestinal fortitude to compete. Like, I can't imagine going into something with a high rank is very intimidating when expectations are high. Because if you make a blunder, and thousands of people are watching, you're never going to live it down. It's going to define your career for like the next 5 years.
I was gonna say like 20 minutes, but yeah, I mean, don't hang checkmate in 6 moves. That has been definitely a legendary clip. But if you lose like a tough fight in the finals, I mean, come on, it's good to end up in that situation. So, people keep telling me to say pot play.
Yeah, that's one of the games I play. Is I have a notable blunder for sure. And then I Streisand affected it. By trying to ignore it. Now everybody brings it up even more often. So now I have to pretend to be like I'm like that meme image of the Wojak crying, but he's got the smiling mask over his face. So I got to be like that all the time.
I know nothing, and I take no bait. So y'all should, you know, go distract yourself with the 6-move checkmate thing that I mentioned. So knight e4, I like it. F3 isn't so scary because again, you can just bring it right back. Rook e3 is a cool move. Rook e3 is a cool move because he has some long-term hope of going here, although it's never going to quite happen.
Yeah.
So now you punish this move immediately. Bishop g5. Nice. Rook f3. So the next move kind of confuses me a little bit. Rook f8.
Oh, dude, I remember that was actually a misclick.
Okay. Okay. Yeah,
Because I'm in there and I'm going like, well, I could do, you know, like this
Yes.
or the whatever, and then I like just try to click the cancel and it moves the piece that I had highlighted.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, I was gonna say Rook f8 is okay, yeah, I was gonna. All right, that makes sense.
I
That makes sense.
probably
That makes sense.
misclick like I would say one time every 3 games. So like the fact that my rating is doing so well, I think actually I'm probably like a 22 to 2300 if you take those out.
I think more actually.
Maybe like 4000.
Okay, I mean, I was thinking like 2700, but yeah, I mean, I think okay, we could go 4K. We could go 4K. I want to just point out that a move like G6 here is not scary. A lot of people they don't want to play a move like G6 because I'm weakening my king. You know,
Yeah.
people have these abstract concepts of I'm weakening my king, but how is the king weak? Like, okay, the bishop controls some squares, but who can attack the black king from white's position? Nobody.
Yeah.
Nobody. So yeah, G6 is fine. Okay, he takes F6. Not bad. Attacks the bishop. Yeah, I'm very okay. So here we have a moment. Here we have a moment. You took because
I always do.
okay, I wasn't gonna say that. You said that. There's a move here which I did see. Forcing moves.
Yeah.
So you can't play bishop takes f4. So what's your other most forcing move?
Pawn to G6.
So pawn to G6 will be the second move.
Okay.
You have to play a different move to attack the rook first. So if you play G6 now, what does white play? Forcing move for white with the rook.
Oh, they take D5 with the rook?
Yes. So you take the bishop, and what do they do? Continuity. What did that pawn used to protect?
The knight. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. So something like
Okay.
G6 here, and now the knight has no guard. This is very bad. You don't want this to happen, which that's hard to see.
Yeah.
People would miss that because it's much more natural to go here thinking, yeah, I win the, you know, this is good.
Yeah. So
bang
instead,
and-
maybe like queen to E6 first?
Which glues it together, then G4, then G6.
Okay.
That's the point.
Yeah, and the rook is totally screwed at that point.
Yeah, and I think the best thing for white to do would be to take and maybe take again. Yeah, so it's this, and then something like this, attacking your rook. But this looks terribly unnatural, again, because something like this. And who is actually benefiting from the opening of the position?
Yeah.
Because you put your rooks on those two
Yeah, we
squares.
are for sure.
So rather than take, just look around. Like, this rook is a little bit suspicious. Okay, but you play rook e8. He goes back to f5. That's so persistent. Queen e6.
Oh, I remember this game now. I feel like I trade queens pretty soon.
Uh-oh. Do you?
Maybe not.
Okay, so you... Queen f7. I like this. Here. Oh my god, does that actually work? How is his rook just like... I gotta see if there's something. I was gonna suggest the move f5 here to just kind of like strand his rook.
Yeah.
But he still can, you know, because rook h4, there's this. That's the problem. And yeah, I would try to hunt down the rook, but somehow he just gets away. There's like this mad chase here for this rook. Knight c5 is a good move. I like b6. I like all this. This is good. Rook e2, nice. Nice. Knight, okay, excellent, good. Did you play knight d2? Knight
Did,
d2 is kind of a savage move.
did I play knight d2? I would say almost certainly not.
Yeah, it's well. I mean, I only ask because you just played knight c4, so sometimes people just want to keep moving forward. So knight d2 attacks the rook and threatens this, which would
Yeah,
win.
that's true. Yeah, I have another position in a recent game that's actually very similar to this, where I also did not play knight d2, and now I'm realizing that that's a common theme.
Somehow, like yeah, because you're so in a position like this. Let's say knight d2 aside, like you play queen g6. Black is doing fine, just because you have much more active pieces.
Yeah,
That's like it. You're down 2 pawns, which is very bad, but you have much more active pieces, which is very good, and your opponent's pieces are really passive. This move is no good because, well, first thing I just see is this, and I don't like this, and this is all guarded
yeah,
somehow.
I can't take that for sure.
But remember last game, b3 was a problem?
Mm-hmm.
Now it's a problem for your opponent. And yeah, again, here, knight d2 is really nice. Knight d2 gets in there and attacks the rook and the pawn. I'm curious, why is this? Oh, because you can just get closer.
That's what I was thinking, but I'm still not sure I like it. But if the computer likes it, then I'm willing to agree to disagree.
Yeah, it's... this is what I just kind of discount what computer says sometimes because it's just so absurd. Knight e4, nice. So he can't even go there, and now this is hanging. Oh my god, this is so... Take, bam. I love it. 2 things are under attack. This and this.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And now I remember. Him just not getting that one, and then the game is over.
Yeah, you found this. I would have gotten this guy. Oop, not there again. That would have been a misclick. Yeah, rook e2. But how clean was this conversion? Ooh, extra clean.
I think actually, I was watching this back the other day. I think I actually made a mistake and could have done it faster, but I'm trying to think of where it happened. It was from.
Oh, here you can.
Yeah,
take
I shouldn't. Yeah, instead of going, what did I do on this one instead?
You took this pawn, but you can.
Yeah, that's right. I could have just taken that.
But it's okay. It's hard
anyway.
because it's like just get rid of the pawn. Yeah, the reason this is winning faster is because it's just a check and you win the knight.
Yeah.
And then once you win the knight, it's the pawn, the d pawn is never going anywhere. First of all, your king can stop it.
Yeah.
So the endgame rule of the square. So your king is in the correct area, and you just pick this guy up, and that's easy. So, I mean, this game was a clash of pieces in the middle, and like the hardest thing about a game like this, you want to take something general away from it, right? You want to be like, well, in this game, I did this and this. I'm never going to break that rule again. Which I guess the only rule for your case would just be don't just be so trade happy.
Yeah.
That would probably be the only thing, and I can't think of another. I mean, that moment where you could have played queen e6 and g6 is just a bit more forcing. Don't just well, yeah, I guess don't misclick. Yes. Good rule to follow. Good rule to follow.
At least it was like a tempo misclick instead of leaving a piece out to dry.
Yeah, actually, it's a good point. I have one more game.
Okay.
So let me pull this thing up, and then can give some different ideas with the white pieces.
Oh, I know I lose this one because the guy I remember the Georgian flag. This will be humbling.
Okay. So this was an exchange, Caro-Kann again. So similar structure to last game. Oh wait, no, not so similar because you played knight d7 this time. But okay, yeah, bishop d6 is a little bit better. Bishop b4 is, I mean, it's just the bishop is happier here because it can look this way, and you're less likely to trade on c3 in these positions.
Okay.
I will say that because look, think about it like this: how many pawns do you have on light squares?
Yeah, almost all.
Right. So if you then trade the guy who controls the dark squares, it has to be for good reason. It has to be for.
Yeah, like my reasoning, it doesn't think far enough ahead because what I would think is like, oh, if my opponent does no response here, then they would have to capture with the b2 to c3, and then their pawn structure would be screwed. And I'm guilty sometimes of playing my moves out without examining the opponent's possible responses instead, for sure.
No, but bishop b4 completely okay, because you do have a very good point. Like you have the open c file, and like I see later you play queen a5. But I think you go to battle here before you castle. So just bishop d6 and then castling, and then after that you can do all this stuff. But otherwise, yeah, take, everything's good. Queen a5, knight takes, yeah. Oh, don't trade unless you have to.
It's a common refrain.
yeah, because like here your bishop's just very happy. Your bishop can always drop back, and but okay, it's fair here. And what's the evaluation here?
I like white's position better. They have the bishop versus the knight. Their pawn structure is a little twisted up, but they have some moves that I think give them some advantage. Their queen is probably developed in a better position.
Maybe a little bit more active, yeah. They're also threatening this.
Yeah, that's true. Which I think is actually, that might be how it proceeds. I can't remember. But
what's interesting is that in a position like this, like let's just give, the exchange. Like this is bad, but it's not so bad for black, because who's going to attack you now? And you're just going to create counterplay on this pawn and then this pawn. So it's not like completely terrible. You play knight f6. I think white is a little bit better. I would be inclined to agree. Now, machine here will always say equality because it's not concerned with the attack. And it thinks that black is going to be in time here. So you're a positional genius. You double these pawns and queen a4 and queen c. Very, very, guy goes here. That's a bad move. Like that move sets off all my alarms. I'm like, something's wrong with that move. That can't be any good. And then you do this. Very nice. Very nice. Now he sacrifices.
Well, I was surprised by, for sure.
I guess this was his idea, right? So all this. You're better here.
I was gonna say, now I actually prefer my position.
Yeah, this transformation's no good because this is all very weak. This is all very weak. Now c4, here you're just, absolute gamer god. Queen d2. Like, look at this beautiful move. Queen e3. Don't trade the queens. Take the pawn.
Oh, I'm proud of myself. Even though I lost this one, I'm proud of myself in hindsight.
Yes. c5. And now it's I would have brought the rook. I like queen b2, but I would have brought the rook. Queen b2 is fine. He goes rook d1. The problem is you gave him one full move, and now he defends his pawn.
Yeah.
And a move like f5 you have to be very careful of in endgames. Why? What's wrong with f5?
I guess my initial hunch is that like it leaves this diagonal like so open, especially with the queen already being on black space. It feels like it's not hard for them to, get behind somewhere in like on the 7th or the 8th row and start causing me to have to defend my pawns at the back.
Yes. Number one, you weaken this entire diagonal to your king. Specifically, what physical thing is now much weaker?
The e6 pawn.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you weaken all this, you weaken this, and now anytime I get in here, I'm going to start taking things with check, which you don't like. You got to activate your rook. So like you have to go here. Like don't even think. Rook d8 will almost always be right because now you have a target. Queen e4 isn't the best move because you would lose the a3 pawn. And for example, if this, black to move.
I think you just captured the pawn at d4 because if they take with the rook, you can force mate.
Okay, so you fell into my trap.
Oh, no.
I'm very happy you did this because what did you just calculate? You calculated rook d4. Rook d4 is not possible because back rank mate. I'm going to play rook d4.
Okay.
But in chess, you have to prove yourself wrong. You can prove yourself right 5 times. You prove yourself wrong once, you don't play the move.
Okay.
What's wrong with rook d8? Sorry, rook d4. What's wrong with rook takes d4? What can white do? Forcing moves.
Instead of rook takes d4.
Yes. Well, that would be nice, but yeah. So rook d4, what will white do?
Oh, I see. Okay. Let me think about it. So it's probably a check, I assume. Maybe like queen to c8 or queen to b8.
Yes.
Which would force.
It's one of them and not the other.
It's one of them and not the other. Okay.
Think about a follow-up check. You gotta punch once to the stomach and then once. I don't know.
Oh, okay, yeah. So you would do b8 and then I would go g7 and then you would go maybe to e5.
Yes, not maybe, 100%. Yes, yes. You're very, very, polite. Maybe just safety net. Yeah, queen b8, queen e5. Boom, you win the rook, and the game is over. So yeah, rook d4 is a perfect example of why you need to scan their forcing moves. Check, check, and you lose the rook the wrong way. Now you just lose.
Yeah.
So,
thankfully, I lost in a more dignified way.
Well, the question still applies. What's the best move here for black? It's not rook d4.
What about queen takes c5?
Yes, which is not the first move we're drawn to.
No, because it looks stupid at first glance, for sure. But
yes. And the thing is, now you can go for this, and I think objectively, black should be winning at this stage, especially between 215, 1550, 1594. I think it's sufficient, but it's hard. It's hard to win this endgame. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, this is actually not mate anymore, just so we're clear.
Yeah.
So you would go for this, and so you'd get queen in 4 versus queen in 3, which is not the simplest thing to win. It could be winnable, and you would win it by like hiding your king away from checks and trying to push your pawns.
Or play for time, because this is it's a 10-minute game. So
if it's 10-minute, that's even more so. And that's why one move is so important, because if you had played rook d8 here, you don't let me move my rook. That's the whole thing, is like you just don't let me move my rook, and then slowly you start picking up the pawns. And f5 is what happens in the game. Okay, g3 is g3. You see a lot of queen moves, a lot of like poking at him with the queen. He gets rook b2. His best move here would have probably been this.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because he's trying to get in. Rook b2. Yeah, now you're up the pawn, but you're playing so passively.
Yeah.
And he's like, now he's harassing you.
Now and then I try to force a trade. This is I can smell this one coming a mile away.
His rook, man, like traveled the whole. Okay, rook f7. Now, by the way, his best move is not even to take, which he doesn't do. And now he's playing for a win. Like, because of all these weaknesses, somehow his rook traversed the entire board. Man, this is actually very scary. This is very, very scary. So you play queen d7. Did you ran? Oh my god. Oh my god. This is terrifying.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
But you're not yet lost. It's only scary. Queen d7. Uh-oh. Now it's extra scary. Oh, now it might just be lost. Rook f8. Oh my god. This guy played really well after this. Okay, he repeated once. Oh my god, he found queen e5, and if there's like a mate. Oh, come on. Yeah, that'll happen. Sometimes someone plays a really good game, or their older brother starts playing the moves for them. But in this case, I actually think he screwed up the advantage. And then here you have to like escape, right? So he plays like rook d6, queen e7. Oh, and he gets this. Ah. Okay.
Yeah.
But, okay. A game like this, you just go, like it was a long game. I mean,
yeah, you're like, I didn't want to win that one anyway.
Yeah, that's just, yeah, okay. But it's a very tough position. And the real reason why we lost this is his rook just got active. Like, you go back 10 moves, his rook is like the worst piece on the board. Like, it's just stuck. So queen and rook endgame, activate the rook and target this, and try not to weaken your structure too much, because it can kind of come back to bite. But are you enjoying the Caro-Kann?
I would say so. Like, previously, like I always felt like on black I was playing more reactive, which I guess is by design in the game in the first place. But now I feel like it, at least at this level, it tends to throw people off a little bit more than just responding with e5. And generally speaking, I feel comfortable when both players are improvising. So I think that it being not really like that unusual, but definitely not the most common response has led to some situations that have an advantage for me.
We're already like an hour and 20 into this, but wait, are we? Yes, we are. Why don't we play a game?
Okay, sure.
And I will simulate like a 1800 level bot,
Okay.
and you have to beat me. So because you're obviously 1800 strength, so I'm gonna raise your elo here on my screen.
Okay.
We can do 15-minute, and the best thing to do is to just talk. Whoop! I clicked your profile. Is to talk out our thought process.
Mm-hmm.
So I won't tell you whether or not your thought process is right or wrong, or should I? Do you want me to?
I guess like we can kind of play it out, and then you can always go back after with a quick analysis to let me know where I went wrong while it's fresh.
Okay, let's see. Do you want to practice an opening that we just learned?
Yeah, why not?
Okay, you can go Leningrad.
You're not young Hikaru Boncloud, are you?
No, I'm not. I'm not young Caro Cloud. No. Okay, I challenge. I think I have the white pieces. Okay, so it's 15-10. God, I'm nervous. Let's go C4. So how would you play the Leningrad Dutch defense?
I mean, you would start with F5 if I remember correctly.
Yes.
Looks a little goofy, but that's okay.
So far, you calling my opening goofy? God, no wonder I got fired from that Scholastic program.
No matter what, you do knight to F6.
Yes, unless E4.
Unless E4, then you take. Okay.
I'll go G3.
And then, I mean, my initial hunch would be like knight to C6, but I think the way it's supposed to develop is G6 instead.
Yeah, so knight C6 you want to avoid because I can always play D4, D5. You don't want to fight knights with you don't want to fight central pawns with knights because I can just attack your knights. You want to go for a certain structure.
So similarly, we'd probably just go bishop to G7.
Yep. I'll play more reserved, which I think at this level might not be the case so much.
I think it's uncommon, yeah.
It's much more likely to.
So, I mean, my thought process here is kind of is twofold, I suppose. One thing that I would be thinking is you could castle, but I could castle whenever. I don't necessarily have to do it now if I could gain an advantage elsewhere. So I kind of like the idea of E7 to E5, trying to like close down your bishop's diagonal and control the center a little.
So that's one thing that we never discussed. Like everything I showed you was with D4, and this game I never played D4. So you're like, wait, why can't I just play E5? Genius man over here. See, chat, be like this guy, you know? Yeah. So see, you're thinking through it correctly. In everything I showed you, my pawn was on D4, but you only don't play E5 because my pawn is on D4. So there you go. You take more space. Now I'm gonna go knight E2. Yep. You can do this, and then you still want to get your kind of similar structure like D6 and everything. But yeah, you can castle. You can.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think. I guess I will tell you in a real game I would probably play knight to E4, but because you said just castle, I'm gonna castle.
Knight to E4.
Or, sorry, not pawn to E4. Pawn to E4.
Oh
sorry.
yeah. Okay. I was like, so pawn E4 is not great because I'll start trading it. I'll play like D3, and now you're spending a little bit too much time.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I'll castle. You want to play pawn to E4 a little bit later in the game.
Okay. Let me think about this for a second. So right now I'm like, okay, nothing on my queen side is developed at all. So I'd like to generate some movement there. I guess I kind of do like knight to C6. The idea being that if you take me, I probably just capture with the D pawn, and then I have my queen has some control over the open file, and you traded a bishop for a knight, which maybe leaves me in an advantageous position. And then
you're 100% right, but I want you to kind of get into that like. I'm not playing that.
Okay.
So what am I gonna play?
Right. Okay.
You're right. But I'm not gonna play that. So what else can I play besides bishop takes knight? Like what looks challenging if you play knight c6?
I would hate d4.
Okay, so if d4, are you ready to? What will you play if I play d4?
Then I would play e4 after that probably.
So okay, so you can play knight c6. Yeah, I mean knight c6 is fine. I mean it's fine in many situations. If the pawn was already on d4 and I get to play d5, maybe not. Maybe not so great. I'm gonna go d4.
Okay.
So you blitz out e4. You could have also maybe played d6 in that position.
Okay.
Just to hold the tension in the center. So e4 is yeah, it's a very common Dutch idea, and now my bishop is kind of terrible.
Your knight is okay though.
My knight's fine. Why'd I go rook b1? I just want to show you I know how my rook moves.
Yeah. Why would you go rook to b1? I mean, normally what I would be thinking is that, you know, it happens because you want to develop your dark squared bishop, but you still want to protect that piece. But I don't know that I have an active threat for that. So the other thing I would think is that you're probably looking at this and you're going, my queen side, or your queen side, I should say, is awesome, and you can kind of generate some leverage there. So if you can push your pawn to b4 and then start doing, you know, like d5, c5, you know, a4, it creates a bad situation for me.
Yeah, b4, b5. I want to take space. Very common in many Englishes. By the way, you asking how to play the English? You got to do this if you play g3, bishop g2 in the English, like rook b1. So you can either address that or just say it doesn't really matter. I'm going to keep developing. So what are your ideas? Give me three moves.
Okay. Initially, I think something like e4, which I guess, trying to think of how you would respond to it. You probably wouldn't take because you want to be able to keep pushing the b pawn, which would require you to not use the c pawn in the capture. So I don't know, maybe you would push to c5 instead. I don't know how much I like it. My bishop is pretty much stuck forever, it feels like, but might be okay. And I'm also, like, from a clever perspective, again, I'm not sure if it's any good, but I'm like, knight to a5 creates some pressure on the c4 pawn. It seems hard to defend at first glance, but I don't know, maybe you just push to b3 and then your bishop actually has the ability to get developed after that at my expense.
Yeah. So knight a5 is, you're right, it's just a little slow. I'll play b3. No, d5 is kind of the most direct solution. You know, you just want to, like, but you have to be sure it works, because at the end of it, your queen comes out. You know, I can, like, take, right? Because and your queen's there. Like,
yeah, I don't know if I dislike my queen there though, because your bishop is so locked down due to the pawn at e4. But
okay. So you found no real issues with d5. I mean, you can 100% play it. It looks. I'm not tricking you as your.
Okay, that's what I'm wondering. It's like,
no, I'm not. Come on, just man, that's like a Soviet style. Okay, play move. I mean, it's so strong. Yes, play it, and then I just take all your pieces. No, d5 is it's a reasonable move.
And I think moreover, now that I look at it a little bit more closely, like in terms of long-term plans, I'm like, man, I would really love for my knight to get to d3. That's
right.
I don't know if I'm tunnel visioning on that, but that's as if I'm looking ahead a little bit. I'm like, if I can get my knight to d3, it's a very powerful position for that piece.
As a kid, did you like have to train hundreds of positional exercises, or are you just like really good at spotting like a available square?
I was an only child, so I had a lot of free time on my hands.
So was I, and I never learned positional chess, even to this day. I'm gonna go here. So this is gonna give the position a bit of a unique character. What do you think about the move c5? Good, bad, best move you ever seen? Like what? I
mean, I hate it as black because I feel like I'm trapped in my own queen side, but I don't know. I guess the game feels like it has the same character as before. You didn't open it up. And I also, I mean, again, it's a personal bias. I don't like the lingering capture that you have to keep like a mental debt of at any point this could re-enter into the game. So the fact that the situation is simplified feels nice, at least. But I also do wonder, I mean, I don't know. I feel like maybe it gives me the advantage a little bit because I feel like the character of this move allows me to develop my bishop along this diagonal from like a6 to f1, and that seems stronger than your dark square bishop's ability to develop because it's not really threatening anything over there. But I guess
Basically 100% right. I have nothing else to say.
Okay.
So now you have to come up with 3 ideas.
And so one is definitely knight to b4,
Okay.
which I like because it allows me to push d3. And I'm trying to think of how you would stop that, and I don't really have a good answer. Maybe I guess you would move your own knight to f4, and I would never want to actually get traded on there because it would totally destroy my pawn structure. So maybe that actually sucks. Instead, I would maybe think about pushing b6.
Okay.
And I'm trying to, because I think the idea is if you take, which I don't know that you would, I would just capture with the a pawn, and then I would have control of the a file, and my bishop would be developed. So I mean, I only have one idea for you. It would probably be b6.
Right. So it's interesting you're locking in on b6. I mean, it could be something that I just played the move c5. Also, don't worry, I'll get us some more time added, so we don't have to.
I can think fast. I just talk slow.
No. I just put 15 minutes, but it flies by oftentimes. So c5, b6. How can you? There we go. Thank you. All right, cool. That's gonna be a 3-hour game, except not really. We can obviously speed it up a little bit, but at least we don't have to worry about you losing on time. So you're looking at b6.
Yes.
But remember, there was some other concepts behind the Dutch, like what is a game plan of the Dutch after you set it all up?
Yeah, so you use your kingside pawns after castling to dismantle their kingside.
Yes. So how can you kind of begin to do that? Let's begin the process.
Yeah. So. I mean, like, everything sucks on that side right now, I think, except for h5.
What about g5? Why does g5 suck?
I mean, maybe it's like a beginner way of analyzing it, but it feels like it blocks in the dark side bishop. But I guess the bishop is kind of trash right now anyway, so you're not really losing anything.
A lot of insults being hurled around here. Man, what did that guy do? So g5 and h5, yeah, why h5 is worse than g5?
Okay.
Is because I can play h4. And then I look at you and I say, like, now what?
Yeah, now
the only...
I extend my hand and offer a draw so that we don't have to play out this miserable position.
I say no, and then we have to play out this miserable position. Because I'm an old-timer, I like the love of the game. I don't take quick draws. So, yeah, it has to be, like, g5. And so if you play g5, so just visual, like, you could play it. I can feed my own demise.
Okay.
What color complex became more open?
Like which color square?
Yeah, like over on that side of the board. Like, what do you notice? How can you maneuver your pieces? What squares are more free?
Probably like if you move. I mean, it takes a lot of moves, but maybe like queen to e8 and then queen to h5, or bishop to e6, bishop to f7, bishop to h5.
Yep. So queen e8, queen h5 is like the $1 million one.
Okay.
And there's going to be various ways to break through. Because first of all, if you play f5 to f4, at an elementary level, you're like, it loses a pawn. It's not a good decision. But it also opens the light squared bishop.
Yeah.
And if you sacrifice that pawn sometimes, it's okay. Because what happens is gaining the light squared bishop as an attacking piece is worth the cost of one pawn. You can't just be too material obsessed here. So I'm going to go b4.
Okay.
Is that scary?
Initially, yes, because you think you have to come up with a response to b5. But maybe not now that I think about it, because b5 allows me to move to the knight to a5, which I was going to consider doing anyway in the first place. But this time I get to do it in response to their move instead of by wasting my own initiative to make it happen. And moreover, like, nothing's under threat on the queen side anyway. Like, none of the pieces over there are developed or valuable.
Mm-hmm.
So I would probably just ignore it. And I don't know, I might even be like happy if they push to b5 at this point, because I get to move the knight in further for free.
You can also rotate the knight to the attack.
I could take it to e7, I guess.
E7 and G6. Yep. Yep.
Okay.
So you are definitely not afraid of B4, B5, or so I'm making you think. No, you actually aren't afraid of it. So then, what would you play?
Something to develop the kingside attack for sure. You wouldn't do e5 or sorry, knight to e7 here because you'd rather wait for them to push, which might be a little bit of a mistake. But the only reason they would ever push to b4 in the first place is if they were going to push it one more, probably. So, I would probably look to queen to e8, I guess.
Okay.
Or I'm just no, I think I like it. I think I like queen to e8.
All right. So hit me with queen e8. Man, I never play like this. I'm always the guy attacking.
Yeah, I see like on Twitter, all of your positions that you post are like 8 moves in, and you've gotten a pawn to e2 or pawn to f2.
So that's a trap, that's the Eric Rosen trap. Have you watched these videos?
So I watched you play a game against him about half an hour before I joined the Zoom call.
Oh.
But it was 2 hours long, so I just, I watched like 10 minutes
we played like a match.
Yeah.
Yeah, we played a couple matches. Yeah, I challenged him to an official chess boxing match, but he doesn't.
I saw that too. Yeah.
He doesn't want to do that. So, Okay, let's. What should I do?
By the way, I never play this position either because at some point I would have, had a vein pop on my forehead because I haven't traded any material away at this point.
Okay, well here's your opportunity.
Okay. Well, my initial hunch, and this could be very wrong, but I definitely do not want to let you close up the king side. So I think that my initial hunch is that we have to capture on f4, but I also do wonder if we couldn't instead push to g4 with the pawn and then start moving our h-pawn further up to make it a little bit more favorable for us because of the fact that we could, like, if we can go to h5 and then we can go to h4, it just makes it easier to develop our queen to h5 or to develop our knight to h5 if we wanted to. So I guess those are the two moves that I see. I see, g5 takes f4, and I see
g4.
G4, yeah.
What about en passant? If you play pawn takes f3.
Ah, okay, hold on. So
I'm not saying do it, but a lot of people will do it because they can. They're like, ha!
You have to do it, yeah. Like, check it out. You must have blundered if you walked into an en passant.
Yes.
Well, honestly, now that I look at it more, this is incidental to the en passant. Now that I think about it, I don't like the capture at all because I think you just capture back with e3, and then you've kind of like locked up the king side a little bit better. So it would either be the en passant or maybe the g4. I don't really like the en passant either. I think it gives your rook control of the file, which is something that we don't want to let you get, especially for free, especially when we're going to be attacking the king side.
It's definitely en passant or g4, and I will just... You can't play gf4. You're absolutely right, because that just gives me way too much. You can't take g takes off, so...
Okay, so either one you think is acceptable?
Yeah, I mean, you maybe have other like h6, just defending your g pawn, or like queen h5 or queen g6. But yeah, it probably comes down to those two. So,
all right, I think I'm more of a fan of this then.
Okay. Let's do this.
So I still... There's a part of me that wants to go a5, c4, just because I love the position of the knight that you can get it into there. But now that I think about it, I'm like, again, it's more like, yes, that would be my initial hunch, is that knight's in a good position, but it doesn't do anything. Like, so you're putting some attacks on the e3 pawn, but it's already defended, and you're never going to get any extra leverage there. So I would probably at this point go knight to e7
Okay.
to try to move it back to the kingside attack.
I think knight e7. Yeah, I think knight e7 makes a lot of sense. Knight a5, knight c4 is a little bit superficial. I don't know if that's the right word, but yeah.
It seems fair to me. Okay, I'll move it.
So I'm thinking to just keep pushing. So like a4, a5, some other ideas. I'm saving one of my moves for when you start.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because you must know that like coming up next will probably be like h5 or something.
h5, h4. Yeah. I think taking on Poussin was the best move.
Okay.
Because it's because I think what will happen then is you'll replace the e4 square with the knight. So your knight would have made it to the middle. But it's hard to say. So yeah, let's just do this.
Okay. So now this is the part of the game that nobody likes, where you have to think about like, you know, we knew that this was coming, but what do I do to respond to it now? I like that your pawns are there, but I don't want them to move any further because you can start to develop your c3 knight, which actually forces me for the first time in a long time to make a response that puts it at a detrimental position to me, because I worry that you'll be able to attack the vulnerable c7 pawn with it. So
it's true. If my knight gets into b5 or d5, yeah, c7's weak for sure.
So I'm wondering if I don't actually like pawn to c6, and then this is it. You got to think about it a little bit, because I can't capture with the knight. Because if I capture with the knight, you would just take the b7. No, because my bishop's there. But still, okay. Maybe I think I kind of like I like pawn to c6.
Okay.
That was a weighty okay. That's
No. I don't want to say everything, you know?
Right,
like,
yeah. Like just playing through the lines in my head, you know, like the two moves that I can see ahead at this point in my chess career. I'm like, I feel like I don't really mind, because my opinion is that if I move to c6, you have, you know, three choices. You can capture. I feel like you probably don't, even though it gives yourself control of the B file, because I feel like the B file is kind of useless to begin with.
I won't push.
That's what I was. The other one is like there's no reason for you to push at that point. And the other one is just leave it hang there and try to do something else. But because you've been doing this, you know, up to this point, I'm trying to think of what that would leave you. Like you don't. I guess I start to think like you don't have that many other good moves. Like maybe bishop goes to a3 and you start to squeeze a little bit, but you can't really get it out there. So I think I like c6.
C6 is good. I think c6 is it's a very reasonable move, because you need to strike a balance between addressing my attack and just doing your own one.
Mm-hmm.
So like just playing h5, h4 and all this stuff. So you play c6.
And I extend my hand for a draw again, and
okay, I'm gonna go here.
All right.
I kind of disregarded.
Well, I definitely don't want to trade into b5. That's a given. But I also so I'm thinking like you would push, like why I'm walking it through from your perspective. Why would you push the a pawn? Pushing to b6 at this point is like, it seems terrible for you, because I can capture with the a pawn and then get control of that with my rook, which doesn't give me that much of an advantage, you know, towards attacking your king, but it gives away something for free for you, which seems bad. So instead, maybe you're looking at something like, and this is interesting to me. What if you're trying to push to a6? I capture, you capture. I take the bishop, or I take the pawn with my bishop, but then your rook has a nice little home. No, maybe not. I don't know, honestly. I still feel like I don't respond. Like I feel like I would probably try to push the issue with h5 here. I don't see an imminent threat.
So do it, bro. No, yeah, H5 is good. You know, you could have played A6 yourself. A6 would have forced me to do something with my B pawn, because then if I don't, I probably would have taken A6.
And I would take from B7 to A6.
Probably, yeah. And then I guess I would try to like go for the B file. You know, I'm trying to go
Yeah.
knight A4, knight B6. So let's see. It's a very weird game. Very closed. Both sides attacking on.
Not something you typically see in 10-minute, 1500 elo chess online.
No, but that's the beauty of it. No, I mean, with the Dutch, you'll have a lot of positions like this. At least I hope. I'll be very. By the way, if like the next YouTube video is not a Dutch, I'll be very offended.
Well,
it's
now
like, okay,
I'll get 5 white games in a row, and then I'll forget
That's
how
how
to
it
play.
works.
Yeah.
That's how it works. Yes, but you know, if the next one is like, you know, D4 knight F6, I'll be like, no, but yeah, give it a shot. The thing is, actually, when you learn new openings, sometimes there's like a learning curve.
Yeah.
And you like you lose it more than you win, and then you catch yourself. And okay, so Queen A4. I want to go A6, just like you said. So.
So now I'm still thinking. I like the position less for me now, of course, because your queen is now in the game. I'm trying to think. I feel like the game is going to open on the queen side soon, which is unfortunate for me right now. Let me just walk it through in my head here. So if I did bishop to d7, you're not going to capture in all likelihood. If you push to b6, I just push to a6, which I like, and then I can start my kingside attack again. Your knights still can't do anything. Yeah, I guess I kind of like bishop to d7.
I don't think there's anything. I don't think there's anything wrong with bishop d7. I think it's, yeah, bishop d7 is good. The thing is, it feels like you have a lot of good moves here.
You think so?
It's like, yeah, well, because like, what's my threat? Is it a6? Is my threat pawn to a6? Am I threatening that move? I don't know. Yeah, bishop d7 is quite good. It kind of controls my attack a little bit.
I also I like that it kind of it strengthens my back rank, so that like I was a little concerned like if the b file opens up, like my rook can't really do anything to challenge your control over that. But if I have some support from the queen and from the rook on f8, then it seems a little bit more acceptable for me. But
okay, we play. Okay, I think it's time. I think now comes the big moment. White has thrown the first punch, so
after
now what?
17 moves.
Yeah, someone said they were convinced this game would end with no captures, so here we go. Now you kind of have to trade, finally.
Yeah, something's got to happen here. So I'm walking it through. I hate... Okay, so now I think I understand a little bit better how this develops for you.
It's so intense, I'm going to put in eye drops.
Well, you probably have time. So like if I take on a6, you probably take with the pawn. Gives you control of the file. I don't know if I have anything that's materially better. I hate capturing c6 to b5, I think. But I'm worried about my a7 pawn.
You're more forcing capture is definitely taking on b5, right?
You think so? Oh, I mean, it forces you to do something, otherwise
Correct.
you lose the queen.
Yeah, it's just more forcing. I'm not saying it's better. I'm just saying I have to react to the capture on b5. If you take a6, I could play king h1. I'm not saying it's good, but I have to.
And now that I think about it too, I fall into these like beginner kind of like axioms where I'm like, oh, I don't want to trade my bishop for his knight, but then I'm like, my bishop literally like made its first move just now, and has not really had any strength in the game.
I don't know what axiom means, but
It's like it's a rule that might not be that good of a rule.
I was just gonna roll right past it, but I'm gonna admit I knew what the other one meant. It was just a big word, but I don't even know what axiom means, man. I'm sorry.
No, it's all good.
Context clues, context clues. Damn, I gotta get smarter if I want to become a dad. I can't be out here rocking my 5-letter words or less.
All right, so
Okay.
you think b5 would be the natural way for this?
I think if you're gonna capture something, you have to take b5. But I can take b5, and then I can also maybe not. So it's gonna get weird.
Well, I'll tell you, in a game, I would definitely take... Well, in a game, I would probably take a6 here, but since I have an international master advising me that that's a suboptimal move, I'm definitely going to be taking something. Unless you tell me not to. So
I would take b5. This is weird because I feel like I'm shooting the mirror, you know? I'm like, or punching it. Okay. So if you had taken a6, I would have taken with the queen.
Okay.
Probably. ba6 is also good. But yeah, the point there is like you just completely give me the entrance, you know? If you take b5, now, first of all, I can take on b5 with the knight. I can also not do that. I can also maybe play queen somewhere. And the logic of queen somewhere would be that I'm not pinning myself. I will take your pawn later.
Yeah.
You know, I'll take it later. But is there any immediate problem with knight b5? Take. No. And then are you like punishing me somehow if I take? I don't see it. I don't see it. So I'm gonna take on b5, and if you beat me, you beat me, and then you never ever join me for a collab ever again. So
I think I've had some assistance to get to this point. So
no, this is wacky stuff. This position.
well, I want to. Well, I don't know. It's weird. Now I'm thinking like, what happens if I take b7? Or sorry, if I take a6? It obviously.
I have to take. You know my next move.
Don't you like from that? Oh yeah, you would just take the pawn. I don't know why in my head I was like you would play knight to c7 and we would get super memey, but
no, because you just take the queen and then your bishop just comes back and takes the knight. So
it leaves me up a piece. Okay.
Or in this case, any of the pieces actually would take the knight. But in some cases, if the bishop would be lost on a4, then the bishop would come back. So
I think, given that like my current plan of attack is to bust open your king side, I feel like your knight has more value than my bishop. So I want to trade, but then with the benefit of extra time, because this is not a 10-minute game, I'm also like I kind of hate the idea that you would have, you know, you get to recapture and also stack the file there, which creates a situation that's pretty bad for me. But I don't know if there's anything markedly better. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like I probably take with the bishop.
On b5 now?
Yeah.
Or after taking a6?
I think now.
Yeah, take b5. Feels like I'm getting in on the queen side a little faster than your attack is getting to develop.
I agree with that.
Like it feels like maybe I was a touch faster. I'm curious if it was bishop d7 or if it was like it felt like one move was needed. Now I'm not winning. I think white is better, but I don't think I don't think I'm like winning or anything insane. Okay, let's I can take with the queen. If I take with the queen, you can take, I can take, you can take my pawn on a6. Then I would move my rook to b7. So if we trade queens here and you take my a6 pawn, it's not really felt, right?
Like I don't get any kind of advantage out of it.
Like, yeah, like you're up a pawn, but it's not really felt. Also, dude in chat tagging me with engine evaluation, you realize you are feeding two people computer eval in the middle of the game. That is a dumb thing to do. So stop. I've been doing that like for the last 3 hours, my guy. So rook b5 is also interesting.
Okay.
Just not trading the queens. That's the biggest decision to make here, if whether I want to trade queens or not. I don't know which one is better. I'm gonna play rook b5. I'm actually not convinced that this is the right way. I actually think, remember what I said, the guy who wants to avoid getting attacked should trade the queens?
Yeah.
But I'm 1800, so I don't know that, so I play rook b5. Rook b5.
So, I mean, I would look to resolve the situation at a6. I would probably capture. I'm trying to think, like, where I want to go in the future from there. And, again, like, a lot, for me, it kind of hinges on this, like, e7 knight that I feel like becomes powerful at c6, but it does lose the pawn support that it would have, but I don't know if there's any way around that. So I would probably just snap capture here.
I think so too. You also actually have a weird move, b6.
Okay.
You can push, and I can take with the pawn. No, you know what? b6 is bad because you would justify that by saying take. You can't take with the rook because you lose the queen.
Right.
But who the hell said I'm going to take the second time?
Yeah.
If we look what happens, take, you just gave me a passed a pawn. My pawn now just has no pawn in front of it. So probably ba.
Okay.
It's probably the best move. But you know what's going to happen if I'm coaching the whole time? I might make a mistake. So I'm not liable, you know, at the end.
Okay. So I still, you know, my initial hunch is that it's tough because I wanted to, you know, we moved the knight to e7 in the first place to try to get it involved in the kingside attack and maybe get some reinforcement for h4. Now I'm kind of more worried about like the open file on c from the pawn at c5. But I worry, so like one line I'm thinking of is like I move knight to c6 and then I guess, you know, it's reinforced by the queen, but then also kind of keeps my queen cemented there. And where do I go from there? I don't know. I think it maybe gives you some initiative. The other thing I could do is knight to g6 to try to, you know, take some control over the game again. And I'm trying to think of how you would respond to that. I don't know. I do kind of like knight to c6 though, because it also keeps your bishop from really getting involved in the game. So I would probably look to that first.
Okay, you could go for knight c6. Honestly, knight g6 and h4 is like great if you get all the pieces in, but at some point I also have to. I can't sign off on every move. So if you like
sure.
knight c6, then as long as you're not making like a tactical mistake, you know, you can be playing a move. And this is good because you're not getting tunnel vision. Not like I gotta go attack. Levy said I have to attack, so attack. Okay, I will play a calm move just to.
Okay. Now this is one where I'm basically stuck. I'm trying to figure out, like, I've got nothing immediately that really does much for me that I can see. So it seems like one of these situations where if you just pogged off, you could come up with a move that the engine would love that you would never see on first blush. But you'd be like, you know, some kind of esoteric move like king to h7 gets you 2 exclamation marks. But I need to figure out what it is.
Yeah. No, it could also be a position where like 5 moves give the same evaluation, and it's very difficult to find exactly which one it is. So,
well, you know, like my initial hunch is actually to try to trade queens. Which I don't know. It feels advantageous to me because you're putting me under more pressure here, but I don't know if it's actually something that makes sense. So I'm trying to think about what that would even look like. So one of the things I'm thinking of is queen to c8, and the methodology is simply that by removing your queen from the A rank, that removes a threat for me, and then like beyond that. Like, I thought about, like, rook to b8 to try to, like, gain some control over that file, but I actually think it's kind of terrible. If I go rook to b8, you capture me with the rook, If I capture with the queen, then your queen captures my knight. If I capture with the knight, your queen captures my pawn, which is like very advantageous the further into the game we get.
Yeah, rook b8 is easily refuted. Yeah, you just exactly figured out why. No, that was like, yeah. So rook b8 you can't play. I mean, queen c8 probably, or like queen d7 and then play rook b8 with the rooks guarding each other.
Queen d7 and play rook b8. Okay, I think I would. My personal preference would be that then.
Yeah, I think this is fair.
And then if you trade, like, I'm happy. And if you move away, then I have 5 more minutes to think about what I'm going to do next.
Okay, I'll give you the satisfaction.
Okay, now here, I don't know if it matters too much, but our rook at f8 isn't doing anything. So I think the rook at a8 is at least covering the pawn with the knight right now. So I would probably capture with f8.
Yeah, that's fair for sure. Whew, I think now the transition to the endgame is going to be interesting. So I'm going to go here. I don't know if it's the best move. I'm trying to play moves.
Okay.
More to kind of get you thinking more. So.
All right. So now I'm like, I don't care about the king side attack at all. Now I'm looking at the queen side and I'm like, that's kind of juicy. So I don't want to trade, but I want to retake control of the B file. So I think I kind of like rook from c8 to b8, and I'm just walking it through to see how it would change things, but I feel like the pawn at a7, it has, like, I have no fear associated with losing it with the knight at c6, because it would take you so long to get a piece to threaten the knight out of that position. So I think that I like c8 to b8.
I think it's better, yeah. I think c8 to b8 is the better of the two. Okay, so I personally don't like to take in these positions, and I generally say you shouldn't, because then rook takes rook, and you have control of the whole file.
Yeah, you give up your own, like what you had at a move ago, so.
However, in this position, I'm thinking rook takes, rook a6, which attacks the c6 knight, but here's the problem. Here's the problem with this. When my rook gets to a6, you don't have to defend your knight. You can play rook down to b2.
Oh, yeah. Okay. That makes a lot of sense.
Danger levels, right? Like, you don't need to defend yourself if you can create equal or exceeding danger. So, chat, write that down. So I think what I'm going to do, I think I'm going to go here.
Okay.
The plan is actually not even that my knight gets into the game, it's that my light-scored bishop gets into the game. So bishop f1.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, that's a good idea. I should suggest a bogus move for black, yeah, because they're stream sniping. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
I don't like the trade at all, for sure. But I don't know, I hate the push to a6, because I feel like it makes b6 a very strong move for you with the rook. So yeah, I really don't like my position. So again, I would probably extend a handshake for a possible draw, but ignoring that.
Did you watch Queen's Gambit?
I haven't actually.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't want to spoil, but there are moments in that show where for some reason they offer draws right before they resign, and I'm just like, that literally never happens. Like,
but if it works,
yeah, but at that elite level, that would be the most disrespectful shit ever, because it's like, you're literally about to, like, what do you mean? We both know it's not a draw. Like, why are you offering? So, yeah, the Queen's Gambit is great, but that one detail was just, it was bad. That was very bad. Yeah, this is.
So I think I've got a line, but it's more complicated than I'm used to. So it would be something like knight to d7 in the hopes that covers the b6 push after I move my pawn to a6. I really want to move my pawn to a6. Like that, for some reason that feels compelling to me. But I can't do it because it makes b6 too strong. And I can't do knight to d7 after because we would have to respond to the threat on the knight by moving that knight originally. So I would set up the a6 push with knight to d7.
Okay. That's good.
Okay.
That's good.
I'll do it then.
Just kidding. No, yeah, it's a good move.
At this point, if I blundered and you took advantage, I would be like, it's a mercy to end the game.
Oh, no. Can you imagine?
The brain is overheating.
No, if I collabed with someone and they were teaching me and then they just tricked me, I'd be like, okay, that's kind of mean.
That's why I'm an international master.
Yeah, well, that's... Okay, so first things first.
Yeah.
Do you realize that when you move your knight back, your pawn on d5 has no guard anymore?
I did not, no.
Okay, well, it's still going to work in your favor.
You know, that's what I like to hear.
It turns out you're a genius. So if I take the pawn now, what do you take?
I take the rook with my own rook.
Correct. So what if I go here first?
Okay. Let me think about this for a second. The way that this looks to me, I wish I could draw. We take with the rook, not with either of the knights, because after, well, then hold on. I'm like, I think that it hinges on my knight taking d4, and then you would capture with e3, and then my bishop would have either, we would have check with your rook also as an attack there as well.
Okay. So, yeah, I mean, it's probably not. I mean, it's almost never going to be the C knight. At this point, it would. Rook is basically automatic. I mean, unless it loses every piece you have. Knights taking with one of the knights it's just a little bit too passive. So now, Mr. Genius guy. Prove to me why knight takes d5 is, I think, impossible, unless I'm stupid. And I'm 7 hours in, I could be hallucinating. Why is knight d5 not working?
Knight to d5 does not work. Obviously, like this, so the way it plays out in my head to start, you would capture with the pawn, which would be a mistake. So I'm already relying on you to have made a mistake in the first place. Okay. And then I would capture with the bishop and take the rook. Why would that be? What would be the response instead? Yeah,
there's tactics with your bishop and my rook mostly. It's those two.
Well, I suppose you could capture c5 with the d7 knight, and then you can't take back with the pawn. I don't know if that makes knight takes. Sorry, I meant d4 instead of d5. I don't know if knight takes d4 is made bad by that, but it might be worse than knight takes c6.
I would not be able to tell you which of those two moves is better. I think knight takes d4 is better.
Okay.
Actually, knight takes d4. I have maybe rook takes a7 first of all.
Okay. Which point? I'm trying to think about.
And
then I lose, I think, at that point.
I'm not so sure because you can bring the rook all the way down to b1.
Yeah, and then
I don't know if I'm winning or dying. Like I don't know. It's very weird. Knight c5 or knight d4, man. And like in a classical over the board game, you calculate here like 10 minutes. Actually, you try to see this in advance because but if you make it here, oh man.
Actually, I think I prefer c5. I mean, default to your expertise, obviously, but I feel like it's less gimmicky. And also the C pawn is like so valuable right now, not just because it's close to the end, but I've got nothing, like no pawns even close to it that could possibly, halt its journey to the end.
Okay.
So I would probably, with the benefit of extra thought, I would probably, wait, was that? Yeah, that was what I was looking at.
That's chess, huh? You spend like 7 minutes, you go, wait a second.
Yeah, was this the right way? And then you're like, oh, wait, you can just take it.
This is okay. So obviously, this is a thing. Can't take on a7. Can't go check on e7 because your knight covers. And last but not least, what is the problem? Why can't I go here? Or maybe I can. I don't know. Yeah, everything is work. You're like walking on water this game. Like everything works for you. Like rook c1 looks like it wins for me because I X-ray your knights. Unless.
Just thinking. Well, I mean, you could do knight to b3, and then at least when you capture the knight at c6, I would capture the bishop. I guess the flip side of that though is I hate the fact that your rook would be so far behind enemy lines. I feel like you could just pick off like the h pawn and then start from there.
Yeah, it's knight b3, and then you fork. And I got a tough decision. Do I take? Oh wait.
No, wait, no, it's horrible, right? That's the wrong one.
Did you wait?
I misclicked. That's knight to b4. I meant knight to b3.
Okay, wait. Let's figure. I'm gonna go rook a1. You go back to where you were. Okay, there we go.
All right, and
Bam.
And then I'll do it again so we stalemate.
Yeah, we can just repeat. Okay, knight b3. Yes. Okay. So the misclick is an actual thing, right? You don't ever fake do it, right? That's not a
correct. Yeah. No, it's
okay.
it's,
just for the memes.
I'm always mad when I do it.
Because there's this big chess YouTuber who has like a gauntlet of memes, and he just does them even on purpose now. Like one of the things he says is sorry about that all the time, and it's like he's not even sorry anymore. It's like he just says it. Okay, let's play. I think I have to play rook takes knight. I'm gonna do it.
I feel like it's better for you for sure. I like your rook's position a lot more.
But my king is weak, Okay, let's go check. This is the one benefit is that I am winning a pawn, and the check. Again, guys, this is why you have to play more forcing. You have to give the check because then you win the pawn by force. Whereas if other way you move the rook, maybe you don't win the pawn. We played a Dutch defense. Also, if you're watching later on YouTube, you already know what we played. So.
I don't know if it matters too much here. I would probably go h7, I guess.
I think it's best. Oh, knight f5. Both of our bishops were just so trash this entire game. Entire game.
And now I'm just thinking about it. So I'm like, obviously like rook to b1 is kind of the first thing you look at.
Mm-hmm.
And then
maybe even the last. I don't know.
I don't think so.
No?
I think like, well, I'm trying to puzzle it through. You could do king to f2.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I have a great response to it. You could do bishop to f1, which I think, we have the check on that via knight to f3, but I'm not sure.
No, you just take.
Oh, yeah, I would just take.
Yeah, it's free. No, I have to
Right.
play king f2. You know my move. And actually, the benefit of calculating rook b1, you should try to calculate moves where the opponent has the least amount of responses. Like, you can predict my move. So rook b1, I'm going to play king f2. So do you have something after that?
You'd probably start pushing the a pawn, I guess.
Maybe. You can also try to hunt my king down if you
Trying to think. So if you did king to
If you
f2,
dare.
I'm like... Well, the only way I think that we can realistically make that happen is we have to get the bishop involved. But I'm looking at your moves as well, and I'm like, as soon as I give you some initiative, you've got like... I mean, like my a pawn is just totally orphaned, and then like... My h5 pawn is pretty bad. Like there's a lot of negativity going for me right here. I don't know. I'm also thinking like, what if I did knight to f3? So it puts you in check. I don't know. Maybe you trade because your bishop's trash anyway, but it gets me a pawn very close to the end. And now I'm trying to think it through in my head yet again. The problem is it does give you the ability to make like a move without being under threat, which allows you to get back on the initiative. But I don't know.
A combination of the rook and the knight to f3
Okay.
looks problematic for sure. Now, I also do get a moment where I can start attacking your king and the bishop, but yeah, this is like the thing. You have to make the big decision. Do you play passively? Like, do you try to get the bishop in? Do you play knight f3? Do you play rook b1? What's the
Yeah,
what's
I
the
don't know.
instinct telling you?
I mean, the instinct would probably tell me to go to B1, but I do think I don't know because now like I think my instinct is kind of trash because it fizzles a little bit, or at least I end up like with my rook being behind. Like I don't end up in a position where I can actually defend myself with this. So I don't know. I kind of feel like in my head I feel like knight to F3 would probably be what I settled on here, but I'm not sure if it's actually good or just desperate.
Well, I'm just a humble opponent. I leave it in your capable hands. Knight to F3. Yeah, I think I would have played Rook B1 and Knight to F3.
Okay.
I think. Because just Rook B1 it feels right, you know? It feels right. But by the way, I think I have to take. Because if I don't first of all, I can lose. I can play King H1, get mated.
Right. Not a great move.
No. No. Definitely not. And King F2, I have to take.
And then here I was thinking, I'm not sure it matters a ton. But I feel like if my endgame involves the pawn controlling, you know, G2 and E2 in order to keep your king from having space, I feel like what I want to do is actually capture with my E pawn as opposed to the G pawn. But again, I'm not sure it matters a ton here.
I also am not sure. I'm not gonna lie. Like I'm not even trying to say that because I think I'm losing. I don't know. My instinct tells me E to keep all the pawns together, but it very well could be the G pawn.
Okay.
So, okay. You said, was this your instinct or?
Yeah. That was
okay.
That was my. I mean, again, like it kind of feels. It feels right to keep the pawns together, but it feels wrong because it gives you kind of like the E and the D file by themselves. But
yeah, the other thing is like now you gave me 3 pawns together. So if I am ever going to an endgame, like it's just a huge advantage I think for me to have that. But oh man, here, amazing. Wow. There is something so amazing here that could end the game and our suffering.
Okay.
But no, I just don't know if it's the best thing. It's just a draw. Is there really nothing else? That honestly might be because your rook is so active. Like with coming down to B. So yeah, I'll play it.
Okay.
I'll play it.
And I pretty much have to play rook to G8, right? I don't think that there's a better response.
You don't think so?
I saw a grimace.
I think if you went aggressively down to B1.
Okay, yeah, that makes more sense.
So rook B1, I play King F2, and then you would have played rook B2 check.
Oh, and we would have just been in repetition.
And, well, the crazy thing there is that if I play try to escape diagonally, like King E1, King D2, you would have pushed your F pawn.
Okay, yeah.
And you would have actually queened. Like I think it was just the draw. I'm very curious what El Bar says, but I think here I can take on G7, but if I'm patient for one move.
Yeah, I think now it's a loss, I think. For black.
Yeah, well, you see what happened there. You were like, okay, rook G8's my only move. I have to play it. But actually, if you were aggressive in the endgame, you can hold there with the draw.
Yeah.
King G6? What? King G6? No, man. No King G6. King G6, Knight E7. Also, now I can think I can trade everybody on G7.
Yeah, I mean, like your pawn structure, you have a material advantage for one, but the pawn structure is much nicer too.
That's so insane that position was 0-0-0. I'll offer a draw.
I was gonna say here I would resign. So here's your Queen's Gambit situation.
Oh yeah, that was very very interesting. I can quickly invite you just so we can like take a look at the board together.
Yeah.
It's been
So let's do it in like total 10 minutes because I'm late for baby duty.
Oh yeah, no, of course. I already knew. Yeah, it's been a long lesson. It's been great though. I feel like
It's
it's
been
flown
no,
by.
I agree. Yeah, no, I've learned a lot, and I hope it's instructive for people watching too.
Yeah, I think some of my guys were a little bit caught. Like people were memeing, for example. People were saying, "Oh my God, what? No one told me he's bald," for example. And someone in my chat went,
It's a meme.
"What? What's wrong with that, guys?" It's okay. It's just humor. You could tell it's a meme if 50 people say it. So, okay, yeah, let's honestly most important moment of the game, right, was like right here.
Yeah.
Yeah, computer doesn't it doesn't like c6. It thinks that it gives me a little bit too much of a target. It actually just likes continuing to push away. But actually another big moment, f4. Yeah.
It likes the
best
en passant?
move. Yeah, it likes the en passant, and then it likes this because if bishop takes f3, oh, that's rook takes. If bishop takes, attacking this, you just keep it all shut with bishop e6.
Okay.
And you have more life. You can like play knight, pawn, things like this. The position is a little bit more, if something to play for. Whereas the way it happened in the game, you closed it. Wow, you were a genius. Knight a5 is the best move? Wait, what? Wait, hold on.
I remember pushing for that, and I was steered away a little.
That's fake news, but no, I know, but it's interesting. I was going to say queen a4, and I thought this was the idea. Knight takes like this.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, the computer just likes it. It just likes it. It just thinks that doing this is
It's worth it. Okay.
Okay, wait, so what? Oh, it just likes b6? Why does it like b6? I guess you play knight a5 and knight c4. Wow. See, I mean, even I can learn. There you go. Amazing. No, so your first instinct was right. But this is the important thing here is your instinct a little earlier, like in this position, like here, knight b4, to go knight d3, also was actually quite good. I just want you to not like rush this kinds of stuff, because watch what can happen. You can like plant your knight here, and the guy goes like knight f4, and like take, and the position will close up. And your best plan now is apparently to like play like bishop d7 and queen c8, which I can't even explain. Like, why is that your best plan?
I guess they want like later maybe you push g5, which lets you develop something along
Yeah, I guess.
f, and then yeah.
So I don't want you to rush in and get like an outpost square, and then it gets traded, and then you're like, well, okay, that was short-lived. But yeah, okay. Knight a5 was the best move. I didn't think so, but Stockfish JS10 thinks that, yeah, it likes it a lot. Look at that, knight e7. Still fine, not like losing or anything. Bishop d7 was, or h5 was the best move, yep. What about bishop d7? Ah, this was the big moment. So bishop d7 looked very natural, but the computer likes just h4.
Okay.
It just wants you to keep chugging.
In hindsight, it makes a lot of sense because we had like no, or as black, I had no control over the pace of the game from that point onwards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because like it felt like after bishop d7. Yeah, see now I'm like breaking through a little bit. Take. Okay, yeah, I mean this move is ridiculous. It wants you to play rook b8. It wants you to just. I mean, okay. Yeah, and it wants something like this. No, this is hard. But toward the end, the very final position before the blunder, yeah, look at this. It's completely equal, this knight f3 thing. And ef3 is apparently, it's just equal. This endgame is just
Really?
a draw.
Well, I had no idea.
It's just a draw. If you play rook b1, you have to play rook b1. Rook g8 is very heavily in my favor, but after that it's rook b1 and then this ridiculous draw with like this, and you just keep checking. And if I run, then I lose. That's another way to lose, like if you're very stubborn. So
it's interesting for sure.
That was intense.
I feel like I have a headache from the
Yeah,
from the
honestly.
mid game.
that was a lot. So now you know, en passant is okay in that position. It will happen. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, for final thoughts, just like different things we covered today, obviously specifically the Dutch, but things like continuity. You know, like you want to make a move, but something used to guard something else. Not being so trade happy. And did you have any specific questions still, or?
No, honestly, like I feel like rejuvenated from this lesson. I feel like there's arcane knowledge trapped in my head that this started to like blow the dust off a little bit. I feel much more confident.
Okay, that's very nice. I mean, I'm happy. I'm happy to do this again when you're 2100, which will be in like a week.
I know you got a busy week anyway, so yeah, give me a few days to get up to over 2000, and then maybe I can teach you something.
I would be down. Yeah. I gotta start diversifying my portfolio. Only do chess. So, all right, man. This was awesome. This was a lot of fun.
All right. I don't know how do you hang up on Zoom? How do you?
Oh, I can just end the meeting.
Oh,
But if there was
okay.
any parting words for your crowd, because there's a lot of them here.
No, I'm happy. I kept an eye on chat. I think they behaved well. Sometimes you bring over like a meme from another community into a new community, and it seems toxic. I'm glad that didn't happen this time. It seems like everybody was pretty happy.
No, it was great. I love watching your stream because there's like a whole group of inside jokes, and it's always good.
It's true.
Always good.
It's like a lot of fun if you're a part of it, and if you have never seen it before, you're like, I don't get the appeal at all. Like, why are people laughing? They didn't say anything
Oh,
funny.
I was gonna say like the opposite. Like my chat can also be very welcoming, unless someone's first message after they follow is "I hate your music." Then
Oh, okay.
you get in trouble. So, well, have fun on baby duty.
Thank
and,
you.
We'll catch up soon.
All right, later, man. And later to you as well.